All right, so in this week's lesson, we're going to talk about chord embellishments and fill licks and all those fun things that you can do down in first position when you're playing those basic chords, those first chords that you learn how to play. Some people call those the cowboy chords, but a lot of us learn how to play them, but we don't learn how to embellish around them, and that's what this week's lesson is all about. It's showing you how to do that, giving you some ideas for what you can play. And we're going to take everything that I played in the intro and break it down note for note, and I'll show you how to do that and then talk it through kind of along the way. I used to watch guitar players when I was learning how to play. I would watch, like a singer-songwriter play, and they'd be strumming chords, but then in between vocal lines, they'd throw in little fill licks and things, and I always wanted to know how to do that. So I'm taking a lot of those licks and things that I've learned through the years, and I've put those into this video. Alright, so I've got this lesson split into two parts. So in this video, we're going to go through the first half. If you'd like to learn the second half and download the tab PDF file and also access the on-screen tab viewer, which is interactive and allows you to highlight sections and slow down the playback and all of that stuff, you can get that stuff by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP407. Alright, so this song that we're going to learn is played in the key of G, and it's three basic chords: a G chord, a C chord, and a D chord. If you know those three chords, you're already halfway there, sort of. But at least you know the premise of what we're working around. We're just going to be playing fill licks off of those chords. But the first thing I want you to pay attention to before we get into the chords is my right hand. So I'm going to play through a little bit of this, and I want you to watch the motion of my right hand and how it stays consistently in motion. Even when whether I'm playing a chord or just playing single strings, the movement of the right hand never changes. And it's important to keep that movement going. So in the beginning, you're not going to be able to play this maybe as fast as you want, but that's okay. There is no jam track or anything. So set the tempo to something that's slow, but just try and be consistent as you're going through it. Always kind of remind yourself to keep that right hand in motion. When you play and you stop and have to think about it, that's where you break the stride and it starts to fall apart. It's actually, in some ways, it's better to hit a wrong note but stay in time than it is to hit a right note but mess up the timing, at least if you're playing live. Now, I know that there's going to be people who go, what are you saying? I'm saying if you're playing live, people are going to notice if you mess up the tempo versus mess up a note. It stands out a lot more. So just kind of keep that in mind. But try and keep that motion going. And the other thing to mention is that there's a shuffle that's going on here. It's not down, up, down, up, down, up. That's robotic like that. There's a little bit of a swagger, more like a horse gallop. So it's like down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And most of your roots-based stuff, country, blues, has a shuffle to it. It's more of a human element. It's more like a heartbeat or a horse galloping or some kind of organic thing as opposed to this, And to me, that's one of the things I never really liked about metal or, the really fast arpeggios and things, is it sounds so robotic to me that it doesn't sound human. I like things that sound like somebody singing. No, nobody could sing like that. I mean, there's something to be said about that, but I'm just saying in general, when I listen to music and really get lost in it, it's somebody singing with their fingers as opposed to the other stuff. Anyway, sidetrack. I'm going to start by playing a G chord, but look at how I'm playing the G chord. Now, this is going to be super obvious to some of you, and some of you may not have thought of this, but when we learn how to play that first G chord, most people show you how to play it like this. That's how I learned it, too. For years, I played a G chord like this. There's nothing wrong with that. You're playing a G chord. But the fingers you're using, it's a lot more difficult to play a G this way in the long run, because when you're switching chords, you want to be able to play a G like this with your pinky on the 3rd fret 1st string, and then ring finger on the 3rd fret 6th string, middle finger 2nd fret 5th string. The reason for that is if I'm playing, let's say I switch to a G7 chord, look how minimal that is in terms of movement. Just lifting one finger, putting another one down. Watch going from a G chord to a C chord. Look at that. I'm just barely moving my fingers. Watch if I'm playing it this way. You can see I'm having to reposition everything. There's too much room for error. G to a G7. It's like a lot of movement. And the name of the game when it comes to playing guitar is it's like golf. It's like the least amount of strokes to get the ball into the hole. That's how you win. So you're always trying to eliminate extra unnecessary movement. Okay, so from the G, once you get your G chord like this, we're going to start with this. Now I'm not going to go through every strum thing, but I'm going to start off with just the basics. So it's the downstroke on the 6th string, and then we're going to go down, down, up. So it's down, 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 up. So start with that. Now we're going to do this bass walk up. This is what a bass player would do if they were playing along with you. Oh, there's one thing they could do. So it's open 5th string, 1st fret, 2nd fret on the 5th string. It's a great little bass fill. If you learn nothing else, you got to remember this. When you're playing a G chord, work in that, and then watch this. See how I went from the 1 chord all the way up to the 4 chord, which is the C? That's a nice little bass walk up. But when you walk it in, or when you work it in with a shuffle, it just sounds so cool. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now watch this. So then I came up to the, notice I kept my pinky down the whole time on that 3rd fret 1st string, but I came up to the 2nd fret 4th string, and then I did, so I played that note, did a hammer-on pull-off, and then landed on the 3rd fret 5th string with my ring finger. That's important to land with that finger because your other fingers will fall into place to play the C chord. You hit this C note for the bass, and then you play the chord. So you have into the C. And once you get to the C, we're going to do the same strum pattern. Down, 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 up. So, and then watch this. Same walk up. So this is exactly the same thing we played over the G, but now we're doing it over the C. So you're learning this in 2 spots now. So you can do it over the G. Now you can do it over the C. And it's the same notes even. So it's that 3rd fret 5th string. And then we're going to the 4th string now. Open, 1st, 2nd string, or 2nd fret, sorry. Now after I play that 2nd fret 3rd string, I'm going to go ahead and put my index finger back down on that C note, which is in the chord. In fact, both these notes are in the chord. That's like the C chord minus your ring finger. And then watch this. So we're going to play this little bluesy lick here, but I'm going to keep my index finger down the whole time. It starts with an upstroke, so you're playing strings 2 and 3 with that upstroke there. And then middle finger goes down on the 2nd fret 3rd string, comes back off. So we have, and then I use my middle finger for this. Some of you may want to use your ring finger. It doesn't matter, but you're going to try and play this 3rd fret and slide it down. So 3rd fret 3rd string, but you're also including that 2nd string, which is fretted on that 1st fret. So you have middle finger goes down on the 2nd fret 4th string, and then you're going to do an upstroke on the open 3rd string, which is your G note. That allows you to take your hand off the fretboard, reposition it into the G chord. So you're taking advantage of that open G note because that's a note in the chord. And then once I put my fingers back down to make the chord, I hit the 6th string, and we go back into the strum. All right, let's back it up from the beginning and play up to that point. So once I come back to the G, throw in a real simple little lick, little embellishment there. It's the open 4th string, or the open D string, 2nd fret on the 4th string, and then back to your open G string. It's a great fill lick to use when you're playing a G chord. So just practice that, and make sure you let that G note ring out. Okay, so after that lick, then watch this. We're going into the D chord with a bluegrass lick. I love this lick. So what I'm doing is I'm starting on the 2nd fret, 5th string. That's just the note in the G chord. So it's just that B note from the chord. And I'm playing that with my middle finger because that's the note I was using in the chord. And then I go in. So that's 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all on the 5th string, up to your open 4th string, which is your D note. And then you can play your D chord. I love that lick. Remember that when you're using a little fill or embellishment to get to your D chord. It's a great one. And you don't have to do it exactly like that. You can do versions of that. That kind of thing, or however you want to do it. All right. From the beginning. Okay, now once I got to the D chord, I played, went down, 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 up, down, up. And then I stopped and went. It's a classic move. It'd be like the band stopping, the bass player does a little fill and gets us back on track. So I started out with an upstroke. You could do that with a downstroke if you want, but it's an upstroke on the open 6th string. And we're just going to walk it up. Open, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, all on the 6th string. But we're going to play them twice each. So it's... Now, once we're back here, we're back to the G chord. And we're going to play it exactly the same way we did the first time. So, same little walk up. But this time, after the walk up, I went another little variation on it. So this is the same. And then watch this. So this is open 4th string, 2nd fret, open 3rd string, 2nd fret, open, there's the 2nd fret 4th string, open 4th string. So it's real easy to do. It's just open and 2nd fret on the 4th string and then 3rd string. And then land on the C note there, 3rd fret 5th string. And then when I played the C, I went like this. Now notice that I threw in that 7 note, turned the chord into a dominant 7 chord. So everything's been happy and jovial and bluegrassy or whatever so far. But then we throw in this one note, and that turns it into a more serious sound, to me anyway. And that's because we've now introduced a bluesy element. We've taken that C chord and went into that dominant 7 sound. So that's why it's always important to know your major chords, your minor chords, and then the dominant 7 chords. Okay, those are the first 3 I would learn, by the way. If you're just kind of getting into this, you wonder which chords you need to learn. All your major chords, your minor chords, and then your dominant 7. Those are the first 3 I'd start with anyway. Now when I played it in the tab, I think I did something like this. So I played the chord, and then I went 2, 3, 4, and then put my pinky down on the 3rd string. And that's the 3rd fret 3rd string. So after that C7 chord, I went really cool bluesy, bluegrassy lick. So this is a walk down, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret, all in the 2nd string. And then we come down to the 3rd fret, 3rd string, and I push that a little bit sharp and play the open 3rd string. Down to the 2nd fret, 4th string. And then to your G chord. Now if you like that lick, just remember that off of when you're playing in the key of G. So whatever song you're playing in the key, you want a little blues, you can throw that in. And what I would like to see you do or start thinking about is don't just take these licks verbatim, use them as launch pads. So take this as your starting point and then see where else you could go. Like, I went into this chord shape, right? You could start working in other ideas off of, take this as a starting point and then see what else can come out of it. That kind of thing. All right, let's back it up from the beginning and play up to that point. Okay, now we're going to go back to the D, and I'm going to play it kind of the same way we did before, but this time I'm going to come up and play the D7 up here. So I'm playing a D7, just like we did the C7, we're going to play a D7. And I went and walked it from the 3rd fret, 4th fret, up to the 5th fret on the 5th string with my ring finger. I hit 2 of those. And then these fingers fall into place to play the same chord shape we did for the C7. You just slide it up 2 frets. Then you got a D7. So maybe a light bulb went off for some of you and you're thinking, oh, okay, so if that's a C7, I can come up here and play a D7. It just gives you some other options. Instead of thinking about D chord down here all the time, you've got one here as well. So once we come to the D, I strummed it once and then went. So that's 5th fret, 3rd fret on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, 3rd string, and then open G note. So back to your G chord, and then classic bluegrass lick. It's called a G run. If you ever want to look this up, every bluegrass player at some point learns the G run. There's different versions of it. There's like the Del McCoury version. Something like that. You got Doc Watson. You know, all these different versions of how certain artists will play that G run. But anyway, that's how I concluded it. And that lick, that G run, starts here on the 1st fret, 5th string. We slide up to the 2nd fret. Open 4th string, 2nd fret on the 4th string. And then to your open G note, which is the 3rd fret. Open. Okay, from the D, okay, and then the song goes to a whole other part, but we're going to save that for part 2. I'm going to back up now and play a slow version of this so you have a final version of everything. And if you're not a premium member yet, I'd encourage you to look into it. It's extremely affordable, and I've got years and years worth of lessons, 10 years worth of them, and so hundreds and hundreds of in-depth lessons like this, and I put one out every Friday. And so it's a really good resource for those of you that are learning how to improvise and just be good at jamming and playing on guitar and having fun with it. It's not about memorizing just how to do something, but it's about taking this information and being able to apply it. All right, let's look at this final run here, and then I'll see you in part 2. 1, 2, 3, 4.